Greetings and welcome to another video by Sir Mike the Hedge Knight. I want to get into the Starks, one of the most popular factions and some of the characters in the game. I think it's especially timely in that I'm pretty sure the event Rob's War is coming back in a couple of days, and the Starks, along with the Boltons and a couple of other characters, play a pivotal role in being able to score well in that event. If you're building a Stark team, who do you need and why? So, what do the Starks do? They win with ice. They amass ice upon their enemies. Once you get 5 stacks of ice upon an enemy, they become brittle. What does ice do? Ice will cause the target to gain 5% less stamina and will increase the damage of brittle by 20%. Well, let's take a look at brittle. One of the best abilities in the game. Now, not easy, because you have to apply 5 ice on an enemy. That is the maximum number of ice that can accumulate on an enemy. You've got to get them up to 5 ice to have them turn brittle. And once they're brittle, they'll take 2 times damage from champion skills and traits. And notice this thing at the end, it cannot be removed. So ice can be removed by characters that have the ability to remove debuffs. And the ice can be removed after you've gotten an enemy to 5 ice and made them brittle, but the brittle will remain. So once you brittle an enemy, they will remain brittle for the rest of the combat or until they are defeated. We're going to start with King in the North, Jon Snow. You may or may not be aware there are 3 Jon Snows in the game. 2 are legendary, and both legendaries are blue, which is extremely confusing in the beginning. However, of the 3, hands down, King in the North is the best. I consider him to be an essential character in the game. He is on my list of characters I need to invest some in-game resources to get some more shards and level up. And we will get into why. Now, he does have the worst stamina speed in the game at very slow. We will see when we look at his passive that he does get a little bit of a boost. It's more like a slow than a very slow. He strikes a target you can select for 100% attack physical damage and afflicts them with ice. He then strikes 4 random enemies for 60% damage with a 75% chance per hit to inflict ice. And why do I say he's essential? Well, imagine having King of the North against a dragon. There's only one enemy. So you can almost cross out that random line and basically say he's going to hit the dragon 5 times with a guaranteed 1 ice, and mathematically, with all 5 attacks, even at a non-leveled up skill rate of 75%, probably going to add 4 ice to the dragon on average. Sometimes he might do 5, sometimes he may only do 2 or 3. Probably he's going to average 4 ice. Remember, it only takes 5 ice to get something brittle, and once something is brittle, the brittle cannot be removed. So that is a lot of ice. His leadership ability, I'm not a big fan of. The first time he's defeated, he's revived with 35% max HP. There are uses for it. I will say when I fight against Stark teams in Raid, by the time I'm taking Jon down, he's one of the last enemies alive. The combat's essentially over. When he comes back with an empty stamina bar, and he's a very slow speed. So getting him down a second time, kind of like a Beric Dondarrion, not really that big a deal. So I'm not really that thrilled with his leader ability, but his passive, I think, is what makes him shine. When an enemy is afflicted with ice, he gains 5% stamina. And note, that ice doesn't have to be inflicted by King in the North. You'll be on an ice team. You're going to have some ice dealers. King in the North is an ice dealer. You're going to have 1 or 2 others. So even when they inflict ice upon their enemies, King in the North will gain 5% stamina. So that's going to speed up his stamina from very slow to kind of like a slowish. And at 4-star, if you're going to build him, I would encourage you to keep building him until you can get him to 4-star. Because when an enemy is afflicted with ice, they'll also lose 5% stamina. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but being able to delay an enemy's skill, you take so much damage from enemies in this game because of their skills. So being able to delay that for a turn or perhaps 2 during the course of combat, now perhaps you can defeat that enemy before they get their skill off. That can swing a combat. So I would definitely say if you're building a Stark team, you want King in the North, and you should really do everything you can to get him to 4-star before pivoting to other members. Next, we have Ned Stark. Ned has a slow speed, so a little faster than King of the North. It's a single target attack that does 220% damage, and it doubles if the target's brittle. Now remember, brittle by itself will cause an enemy to take double damage from skills and traits. So when it says here that Ned will do double if they're brittle, that's really like quadruple. And remember, Ned is a protector. Protectors are not damage dealers, they're generally damage sponges. They want to absorb damage to keep your damage dealers alive. So they're noted to have high defense and high hit points. He also taunts for 6 turns, which is a key for any good protector. Again, damage sponge, get the attacks directed at him, not the other members of your team. In addition, while taunting, if he gets hit by an enemy skill, he has a 50% chance to inflict ice upon those enemies. So he does a little bit of ice. I wouldn't quite say he's an ice dealer. You might get some ice here and there. He's not a primary ice dealer, but it is nice to have. His leadership ability, I think every Stark team I face, or the clear majority of them, has Ned as the leader. All enemies start with 1 ice. Getting Ned to 5-star is pretty good as well because he'll get immunity to brittle. His passive, when an opponent becomes brittle, which again is what we're trying to do, he gains 25% physical resistance for 4 turns. That's fantastic because it's going to make him even that more of a damage sponge. And at 4-star, when an enemy becomes brittle, he also heals the team for 5% of his max hit points. As a protector, he's got high hit points to begin with. This is a passive heal for something that you're doing anyway. On offense, you're making things brittle, and as soon as that brittle triggers, it triggers his passive. Even at 3-star here, 5% at 52.5 is about 2,600 times 5 members of your team. Potentially, that's like a 13,000 hit point heal spread across your 5 members. So very, very strong ability. The next 2 characters are 2 of my personal favorites. They're a little bit tough to acquire. It's Robb and Talisa Stark. You can only get them during Robb's Wars event. They are available as rewards for ranking well in the event, and you can get them by spending the event tokens that you'll acquire while going through Robb's War event. As with the other events, even if you make it all the way through Kingslayer, you're only getting 28 event tokens. That's 3 10x summons. Once every 8 months, you'll get a 4th. So really difficult to amass a lot of their shards and really build them all the way up. But a couple of characters that I really like. So he's got a slow stamina speed, but it's a good single target attack, 305% attack physical damage, and the enemy loses 15% stamina. In addition, if that enemy is brittle, there's a 100% chance they'll get stunned. His leadership ability, when a brittle enemy gains a buff, all allied Starks gain 15% defense and tenacity for 3 turns. I mean, it's a small buff. It's only 3 turns. And when you get someone brittle, generally you're trying to go after them and take them out. So now you have to have a brittle enemy that you haven't killed yet, that somebody pops a buff on to trigger this kind of small buff that doesn't last that long. Nothing to write home about. I really like his passive, and Talisa, you'll see, has the exact same passive ability. Anytime an enemy uses their skill, Robb and Talisa will afflict them with 1 ice. So if you've got them both on your team and an enemy uses their skill, they're hit with 2 ice. So remember, we're trying to find ways of putting ice on. We need our ice dealers. Now, this is a passive way of putting ice on. You can't really time it. It's when an enemy unleashes their skill on you, which that's always bad news to begin with. But now at least they get their skill off, and bam, you put a couple ice on them. You're getting them a little bit closer to being brittle. And if you get Robb up to 4-star, if the enemy is brittle, he'll also gain 15% stamina. So that's a really nice boost for someone with a slow stamina speed. Talisa Stark is a mender. We could use some healing. She has a fast speed skill, so that's extremely helpful. Her strongest ally will gain taunt for 3 turns 75% of the time. So when it says strongest ally, from what I've seen, it's based on current HP, current hit points. I don't know for certain or not if you also have shields active. Will it add current hit points to current shields for like an HP pool to do the comparison to see who gets the taunt? So that I am not sure on. She also heals a target ally for 18% max HP and removes all sustained damage effects from them. So what's going to happen here is you're going to target who the heal goes to. The system will calculate who gets the taunt if the taunt triggers. Her leadership ability, it's okay. I could see it having some uses when she uses her skill. Remember, she has a fast speed skill that will trigger probably a few times per combat. All allies gain 50% tenacity for 3 turns. Tenacity is your chance of resisting an incoming debuff. So if you're going against a debuff-heavy opposition, then perhaps experimenting with Talisa. If you time her skill right to gain that tenacity when a bunch of the enemies about to use their skills to debuff you, perhaps that can be useful. Her passive, the base of her passive ability is just like Robb's. anytime an enemy uses their skill, she'll hit them with ice. So it's passive ice, which I really like. At 4-star, if the enemy's brittle, she'll heal her leader for 5% max HP. I wish it wasn't just the leader. I kind of like Ned's passive better at higher stars where he does less percentage, but he gets everybody. Because what if the leader is dead, or what if the leader's at full HP? Then this passive heal sort of gets wasted. So always nice to have. No discussion of Rob and Talisa is complete without their looking at their ally bonus. They have one of the better, in my opinion, one of the better ally bonuses in the game. It's the area clear power up, which I describe as the bomb. I went through this in my dragons video, so we'll touch on it again here. When activated, if the gem strikes a brittle target, it reduces their stamina by 50%. Otherwise, it afflicts the target with 1 ice. What I have seen, I think it's a little bugged. I know I've seen it afflict ice on occasion, but in general, I'm seeing it do the 50% stamina reduction, whether or not the enemy is brittle. So chances are that'll be fixed at some point. But boy, I'd always rather have that 50% stamina. Well, the ice is great, but I have other ways of putting on ice. But knocking an enemy's stamina down 50% will delay them from using their skill for a significant number of turns. Ghost, John's Direwolf. He has a fast speed skill. It's a single target attack for 85% attack physical damage. Now, 85 seems low, but remember 2 things. He's a beast with really good attack, and it's a fast speed skill, so it's going to go off multiple times per combat. The damage is doubled if the enemy is brittle. Remember, we discussed this when talking about Ned Stark does the same thing. It's effectively quadruple. Brittle does double, and then Ghost does double. So it's quadruple damage against Brittle, which is very, very strong. If the target's defeated, he'll gain stealth for 3 turns, which helps because he's so squishy, and gain 15% stamina. He has a unique ability called Predator's Gaze. At the start of every turn, it goes on the strongest enemy, and that enemy will have negative 10% dodge, tenacity, and attack for 1 turn. If you get Ghost up to 4-star, he will also heal when damaging that target. Now, he's got an ally bonus with King of the North. It's not one of the better ones. It replaces the color clear power-ups, which are the 5 in a straight line, so they're a little bit less common than some of the other power-ups in the game. And when activated, it does 25% attack physical damage to brittle enemies. Now, overall, we're building an ice team, and Ghost does nothing with ice. He has no way, not even a remote way, of adding ice to the enemies. Now, he's a damage dealer. He's a beast. He's got good attack, but he's squishy. So by the time you've gotten some enemies brittle where he could finally do something good, he might be dead. So I like Ghost, but I feel like there are better characters out there that you can throw onto your team as a 5th member that do a little bit more for you than Ghost. The Woodland Archer. Now she is a common. Couple nice things about commons, and generally I prefer obviously legendaries and then epics, but nice things with commons is you're getting their shards all over the place. All sorts of summons, even summons you're not targeting them. Really strong. I think she's probably the best or one of the best common characters in the game. You get their shards very easily. In addition, it's not easy to illustrate here because I've already got her skill at level 9, so there's a pretty hefty cost getting to 10, which is why I haven't improved it yet, but early on, it takes a lot less skill books to up their skills and make them more powerful. So you're getting their shards, you're getting their stars up, you're able to boost their skills, whether it's damage or percentages or what have you. So I'm not a big fan of commons. This one is the exception. She's got a normal speed skill. She does 70% attack physical damage. And remember, she's a marksman. So as a marksman, she's got high attack anyway. So don't be fooled by the 70%, think that's a low number. 70% attack physical damage to all enemies with a 90% chance to afflict each enemy with ice. She is a primary ice dealer. Really strong character. In addition, when an enemy becomes brittle, she'll gain stealth. Now she's squishy as a marksman, so as soon as you get someone brittle, now she can't be targeted, so that helps for 3 turns. And if she has stealth when she uses her skill, she'll reduce each enemy's stamina by 10%. So this is sort of like a secondary theme we've seen on the team. Robb Stark can do it, King of the North can do it, and the Archer, if stealth, can do it, reducing stamina of the enemy to further delay them being able to use their skills against your team. The next 4 characters I'm going to go through a little bit quickly. There's so many Starks. I didn't want this video to be an hour and a half. It's pretty long as it is. Do not mistake that I'm going through them quickly or that they're at the tail end of the video to think that they are any less powerful or any less important. They're all really, really good. And let's start with Theon. And Theon is a really strong character. He is a marksman. So remember, marksmen have high attack. He's got a fast speed skill, single target damage, 200% attack. I mean, 200% of a character that has high attack is that is going to pack a punch. If it's the first skill used this turn, he will afflict the target with an ice and a raid with a 50% chance for a bonus ice and raid. So he can put on 2 ice. And I've just spent a few minutes talking about let's build an ice team. We need ice dealers. Well, here's the guy, fast speed skill, 1 or 2 ice, tons of damage. Also, raid. They're a little vague on exactly how much raid does. So, raid will reduce the target's physical resistance. Well, by how much? It doesn't really tell us. If the target is defeated, the opposing team, meaning your team, will heal a percentage of their max HP. Well, how much? 1%, 10%, 100%? So, I'd like a little more information there, but all good things. Leadership ability, when a raided enemy is defeated, he'll remove a debuff from all allies. Not terrible. And then here, this is why all the videos I watched said, get Theon, get Theon, get Theon. And he counts as a member of both the Stark and Greyjoy factions. So in the tower, in the Crown's challenge, he can fight in 2 towers, the Night's Watch Tower, where the Starks generally go, and the Crownlands Tower, where the Lannisters go. When an enemy becomes brittle, he'll hit him for 75% attack physical damage. I mean, it's a free hit. Nothing wrong with that. And then when you get him up to 4-star, when a raided enemy is defeated, and remember, he can put raid on people, Theon will strike a random enemy for the same damage. That sounds absolutely amazing. If you have a character that just unleashes a skill against a brittle enemy and does an insane amount of damage, Theon's just going to replicate that against someone else. Really, really strong character. Catelyn Stark, she is a mender with a slow speed skill. She heals 1 ally for 75% of her attack, so that's pretty good. And she'll grant them renew. If you're not too familiar, renew stacks up to 10 times, and I think each renew will heal that character 1% of their max HP every turn. So if you stack it up to 10 and you're healing 10% of your max hit points at the start of every turn, if you've gone against teams that really get tons and tons of renew, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. Really hard to take those teams down. They heal so fast. In addition, she'll throw them a 15% defense buff for 3 turns, making them even tougher to take down. Her leadership ability is pretty good. When an ally afflicts the enemy with ice, which is, that's what we do, Cat will heal them for 5% of her attack. So it's a passive heal. When you get her up to 5-star, she'll also heal herself. Not bad. This one, it gets better as you level up the stars, but once per battle, when an ally falls below 50%, Cat will sacrifice 20% of her hit points to heal that ally for the same amount. That's okay. I mean, that's got its uses. But then she's getting pretty low herself. So that I don't like that aspect of it. But the attacker is then afflicted with ice, and all enemies have a 25% chance to suffer ice. So here's a healer that has some ways of adding ice. We're looking to get people on the team, even if they're not a primary ice dealer, that they're a secondary ice dealer. There's a way that they can get some ice. And once you get the stars up to 4 and 6, that will occur up to 3 or 5 times per combat. Sansa Stark, everything I'm going to describe to you is going to make her sound like a mender. She is a strategist. So slow speed skill grants her entire team a 20% defense and attack buff for 4 turns. So that's pretty good. And she also gives them all a renew with a 75% chance for a bonus renew. So that it's a buff, but it kind of sounds a little like healing when you start talking renew. Her leadership ability, she's immune to bleed, and when an enemy becomes brittle, she'll heal all allies for 10% of their max HP. Remember, we're trying to make people brittle, so this is a good leadership ability. For a non-mender to do this kind of healing and putting on renew is, I feel like there's a mistake. I feel like she should just be a mender, not a strategist. Her passive, when an ally is debuffed by a skill, Sansa afflicts the source of the debuff with an ice and grants the ally 25% tenacity for 3 turns. When you get it all the way up to 4-star, she'll also grant renew. So again, we see a lot of renew and a lot of passive heal and a little bit of ice, a little bit of passive ice. So she kind of does it all. And the last character we're going to go over today, and apologies to the couple of Starks that I didn't get to. I'll go through one of them when I get to Robb's War later this week, but Arya Stark. This is the legendary Arya Stark. There is also an epic, so this is the legendary purple Arya Stark. She is a marksman. So remember, marksmen, high attack, they do a lot of damage, and right off the bat, we see very fast speed. So Arya is going to get her skill off numerous times per combat. Now, she only deals 30% attack physical damage to a single enemy. However, if they're on her list, Arya's list, she'll deal an additional 175% bonus damage. And well, how do we get them on Arya's list? So she also spawns 3 faceless gems on the board. This is a skill that is unique to Arya. Enemies that are hit with damage from this gem are marked with Arya's list for 5 turns. So there's a little bit of tactics here. So the first time, again, a very fast skill, which is good, but the first time she hits, we're only doing 30%, not great. But now we have these faceless gems, and we want to match them and put the enemies that are hit by these gems on Arya's list when we know that we're going to have a couple purple matches and get her to hit again. Because if they're on Arya's list, now instead of hitting for 30%, she's going to hit for 205%. So that is much, much better. Leadership ability is okay. Again, marksmen are squishy, so she'll start the battle in stealth for 10 turns. Not so bad. And her passive, when an enemy on Arya's list becomes afflicted with ice, she will tap them for 20% attack physical damage. That's a little bit low. Again, it's passive, it's free, and we're putting on a lot of ice. So now you use her skill, which is very fast. You get the faceless gems out, you match them, you get some people on her list, and now your other members of your team are starting to put ice on, and Arya's going to start just poking them, just pin cushioning them with these little arrows. Really seems like it kicks off when you get deeper into the star count. So at 4 stars, they add another 20. That's double. So 20 becomes 40%, and when you get to 6 stars, it'll do double damage against brittle enemies. So that's what we've got with the Starks. Again, I could have spent another hour on the Starks. There's a couple of other characters. I skipped over some of the ally bonuses. Very deep family, as you can see. A lot of options, a lot of versatility. I don't want to say no two Stark teams are built the same way. Of course they are, but I've run into several different types of Stark teams, and even if you're not building a Stark team, it's good to know what's out there. So when you're fighting them in raid, you know what to be wary of, what you've got to look out for, and who you have to target first. Uh, Very strong family, very deep team. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave some comments below, and we will see you soon.